Now on Denver 7 News at 4, a Colorado company helping us cool off in the heat.
We make cakes, we make ice cream sandwiches.
We'll take you inside McGill's world of ice cream.
Millions of Americans don't have dental insurance. The push happening now in more states to change that. And last-minute flight cancellations and delays have been the story of the summer. The enforcement that consumer advocates are pushing for to fix this.
Extreme heat and a lack of rain may be causing big problems for water in the town of Windsor.
We've issued a precautionary warning to the users of the lake.
Just how close they are to closing down Windsor Lake. We start today with breaking news. Air Tracker 7 was overhead this afternoon as a 14-year-old boy was brought down a Larimer County trail on horseback by a sheriff's posse. Spencer Hallman had been missing since about 4:30 yesterday. His group looked for him for a few hours before contacting the Larimer County Sheriff's Office for help. Searchers combed the area until just before 2 this afternoon when they found Spencer off trail 5 miles west of the West Branch trailhead. We're told he is tired and dehydrated, but otherwise safe. I'm sure his parents are happy to hear that news. Well, is there something in the water? That's the question the town of Windsor is asking right now. They've taken samples from Windsor Lake and they're awaiting test results. The town is worried about a potential toxic plume of blue-green algae, which is typically triggered by extreme heat and a lack of rain and wind. If the samples are positive, the town will likely close what is one of the most popular recreation spots in northern Colorado, with a swim beach, boating, and a myriad of water sports activities.
We've issued a precautionary warning to the users of the lake. And it's always present, but when it really takes off in this heat that we're having, that's when it becomes a true hazard.
Exposure to blue-green algae can cause diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, breathing difficulties, as well as skin irritation. It can be deadly to pets if they consume large amounts of the water. Windsor Lake isn't alone. Duck Lake in Denver City Park is closed due to high levels of that toxic algae. A warrant is now out for the arrest of Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters. This morning, a judge ordered Peters to be arrested for violating conditions of her bond. Peters is prohibited from traveling out of state after being indicted back in March for allegedly tampering with election equipment. The judge discovered Peters was out of state after she filed a letter to the Colorado Secretary of State's office that was notarized in Nevada. That letter was asking for a recount for the Secretary of State bid that Peters lost. Just yesterday, it was announced that a former elections manager for Peters was indicted on multiple felony charges. Sandra Brown turned herself in on suspicion of conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation and attempting to influence a public servant. San Luis Valley DA Alonzo Payne is resigning. Governor Jared Polis has appointed Attorney General Phil Weiser as the interim DA for the 12th Judicial District. Earlier this week, it was announced that an independent monitor would oversee Payne's office after finding he violated victims' rights. Denver 7 Investigates found those included questionable plea deals and failures to follow up with crime victims. Mulching operations for a part of the Cameron Peak burn scar started today. That's the fire that burned more than 200,000 acres in Cameron Pass in the summer and fall of 2000. Officials will mulch about 4,700 acres of the Pingree Park area this summer. Mulching is one way to treat the burned area and improve the watershed. Well, since the Marshall fire at the end of last year, we've all become much more aware of the fire dangers in our neighborhoods. And Golden is starting a series of 5 meetings tonight. It just updated its community wildfire protection plan.
We'll be coming out there with some firefighters, with some equipment. We'll be talking about the prevention strategy. Our fire marshal will be coming out and talking about what we can do in the neighborhoods. And the reason about coming out to the neighborhoods is it's tailored to the fuel types and the topography types that are listed in those particular neighborhoods. We want to make sure that we have an understanding and we can point things out that the homeowners can rectify.
The meetings are evenings and weekends, and you can read the full schedule on the City of Golden's website. Ivana Trump, President Donald Trump's first wife, has died. The Trumps were a New York power couple in the 1980s and 90s before their divorce. The Trumps had 3 children together, Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric. While their divorce was messy, Ivana wrote in a book in 2017 that she and then president were on good terms and spoke about once a week.
The FDA has started sending its first warning letters to companies marketing synthetic nicotine without authorization. Yesterday was the deadline for those companies to submit their applications. The FDA sent warnings to 2 companies they say continued to market synthetic nicotine e-liquid without filing the proper paperwork. The agency also sent more than 100 warning letters to retailers they say sold to underage buyers. The crackdown on synthetic nicotine is designed to close a loophole in a law that tightened regulations on tobacco-based products. A new study out today is raising concern about men's health in the United States.
We know that men see the doctor and use the healthcare system less frequently than women. But when we look at our data and dig a bit deeper, we find it's a bit more complicated than that.
That is Munira Gunja. She is a senior researcher at the Commonwealth Fund, and her study found that American men are sicker and dying at much higher rates than men in other high-income countries. She says that many men here cannot afford to get the care that they need, and she says that concern over costs keeps them from going to the doctor.
In other high-income countries in our study, they don't really have this problem. Every person is guaranteed health coverage.
American men experiencing income insecurity fared the worst in this study. Right now, 16 million men in the U.S. don't have health insurance. A lack of coverage means they often miss annual screenings for life-threatening conditions.
There is such a difference between men in the U.S. and other countries and how they view their healthcare system and ultimately having health conditions. And so if we want to prevent avoidable deaths, which, by the way, men in the U.S. have the highest rate of avoidable deaths, then we need to make sure that everyone can actually go to the doctor without fear of getting slammed with a big bill afterwards.
Gunja hopes the data will encourage men to look for affordable health care options and take more proactive approaches to their personal health care. Worldwide, COVID cases are rising, but COVID deaths are not. The World Health Organization says cases rose 6% last week. It is the 5th week in a row that we've seen cases go up. The WHO says new waves and variants prove the pandemic is not over. Thousands more doses of the monkeypox vaccine should be on their way to the U.S. soon. Federal health leaders just finished inspecting the plant in Denmark where these shots are made. Now, these doses are part of a more than 1 million that the U.S. bought from this facility. Demand for the monkeypox vaccine is rising in places like California and New York. In Africa, outbreaks of diseases like monkeypox that jump from animals to humans rose 60% over the last decade, according to the World Health Organization. Africa's population boom, in addition to increased world travel, helped contribute to the rise. The WHO says that action needs to be taken now to slow the spread of these diseases. Now, consumer advocates say they have never seen a year like this with all the last-minute flight cancellations and delays.
Being a regular traveler, we understand sometimes this can happen, but this is absolutely a ridiculous situation to be in for so many people.
It is just brutal. What you can do, if it happens to you, to increase your chances of getting a refund.
Also ahead, Mike Nelson's in to tell us if there's any hope for cooler weather in the days ahead. And we'll tell you how you can help celebrate one of the Mile High City's newest outdoor spaces.